So the presentation that we're going to give tonight is exactly the same presentation that we gave to the community on Monday night. That's why the slide says community engagement. And at that meeting, we reiterated the purpose of the community engagement meetings that we're having, which is to be able to tailor the design that we're developing for the Lisle Public Library to the community and your service needs, the spirit, the kind of identity of your community. So for our community engagement agenda, it really divided into two parts, the presentation, which is the part that I'm going to focus on here tonight, and then the community engagement, which focused on the exterior design, trying to get some idea of preferences for options that we're going to present on exterior design. That's one of the things we're going to focus on with the board tonight. And we would like to get some idea about your preferences for the exterior design. We're also going to show you some of the interior design ideas that, as Mark said, are kind of in progress, in development, but I think there's enough there now to get some reaction to those. So this diagram is the diagram that was presented at the last community engagement meeting that generally showed how we were reorganizing the interior of the library. And then we spent a little bit of time going over the developments in the floor plan. So I think this is familiar to most of you by this time. This is the lower level plan, the new entry that's located on the north side of the building, kind of in the middle of the building. You come into a new lobby, go to the right, it's youth services, go to the left, it's adult services. We're leaving the existing meeting room wing kind of as it is right now, but relocating the entry is one of the big changes that we're making here. And then we're also adding an outdoor program room on the east end of the building, which is where the existing entry is located. The other thing that we emphasized in the community engagement meeting was a kind of general design approach here, where we focus the investments that the library is making on the public areas of the building. So we're leaving a lot of the back of house areas, the staff areas. They're going to get updated, but not to the extent of the public areas in the building. So that's the lower level plan. The upper floor plan is adult services. So we're taking adult services now and we're stacking it on two floors right above each other. And the lower floor has more of the popular collections, AV, fiction collections, large print collections, some of the art gallery features that you have in the library. The upper floor is probably a little more quiet in nature, I would say. Nonfiction collection, periodicals, computers. We also have a public toilet room up there as well. And the other big change on the upper floor is adding a secondary entry off of the south parking lot, which will really allow the library to take advantage of a lot of parking that's there right now that you really can't take advantage of very well right now. So those are the big changes. And then we focus a little bit on the public areas on each of those floors. I'm going to go through this quickly, but just to give you kind of an update on some of the developments that we've been working through with Tatiana over the course of the last couple of months. So beginning with the entry, you come in through the vestibule here. Immediately to the right of that is the automatic material sorter, which will have a drop directly to the outside. So somebody returning a book will be able to drop that in. It'll go to the automatic sorter immediately. We've increased the size of the lobby space a little bit to make sure that we have enough room to include the security services there and allow people to stand at the service desk and get taken care of there. This wall at the back of the lobby that you see labeled book display, that'll be a little more clear, I think, when I show you the interior rendering that we're proposing in the lobby. But we've really consolidated the lobby space compared to, if you looked at the former plan that we had, some of the public areas, the corridors and that, extended almost to the back of the building. And so we've got a couple of group study rooms here now with a couple of new toilet rooms on either side of it. As you turn to the right then, you enter into youth services. We've reconfigured the youth services area, including the service desk here, which you see has kind of a curvilinear form that flows into this wall for the playroom. And I'm mentioning that because those curvilinear forms in that wall in the playroom, you'll see how that factors into the design when I show the rendering of that area, and then some curvilinear furniture in here. We're really trying to take advantage of Sorry for skipping a page there, but really trying to take advantage of the natural light where we can by putting, consolidating seating along that area, also taking advantage of the window here and organizing this space in youth services as kind of a big open space that includes computers and seating and some other things. We've also incorporated the teen room that is technically part of youth services, but it's located in a way to immediately in off of the entry from the lobby where it will really feel like they have their own space. But it'll also be easy to monitor it because of its location directly across from the service desk here. As you turn to the left, you go into adult services. Again, prioritizing seating along the windows and the natural light that we have here, building in the art gallery feature that you see here, the audio-visual collection down here. The art that you're able to check out is located down here, as well as a public copier. And then the new elevator that we're adding here next to the stairway that goes up to the south entry on the south side of the building. We're keeping the existing elevator, so that'll stay in here where it's located right now, taking advantage of existing rooms that are in the building, a couple of group study rooms back here, as well as the existing circulation room that's located here that also gives us access to our new drive-up service window that we have located directly outside of that. The one other thing I wanted to mention on this plan is the location of the service desk. These are kind of key touchstones for the public, right? This is where the public interacts with the library staff. There are 3 service points, one in the main lobby right when you come in the entry to the building, the other one in youth services here, and then there's one for adult services here, all kind of within eye shot of each other. So I think, that'll also help the library maintain, security in the building. I think especially since we're adding this second entry off of the south portion of the building here, where you're going to come down, you land kind of in the same spot as if you come in through the main door off of the north entry, but you also land in a spot that's right between 2 service desks that are down there as well. So I think this is one of the things we're always a little concerned about in introducing additional entries in the library, but I think this will actually take care of it very well. As you go to the upper floor, again for orientation, here's your south parking lot. This is the new south entry that we're putting in, that elevator that I referred to a minute ago. And then the stairway that goes down to the main lobby also goes up 4 feet to get to the level of the upper floor that's shown here. Again, architecturally, keeping this as a kind of a big open space from front to back that has a couple of study rooms at the back, another service desk that's kind of strategically located right at the top of the stairs for people coming into the space up here. Reference collection and some seating are located along the window, periodicals back here. And then we're also keeping the stairs and the elevator that are existing there right now. There's a workroom that's up here right now that we're going to repurpose as the adult services workroom, and then you see the new toilet room. It's actually an existing toilet room that's there right now that we're going to repurpose as a public toilet room up there as well. So those are the updates on the floor plan. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, I'll just go through the entire presentation, maybe to give you, because I think a lot of these things are kind of related to each other, and then pause for questions at the end of it. The next thing that we wanted to talk about was, what do we do with the outside of the building? This is a question that's come up quite a bit since the beginning of the design process. So the image that you see here is a composite photograph of the north elevation of the building. In some ways, this probably looks about as good as it ever looks, because we actually took it in late afternoon where there's a little bit of sunlight on that north elevation. The truth is, this is really in shadow almost all of the time on the north side of the building here. So it's even a little more animated than maybe it typically is. One of the other things that I think is worth pointing out on this image is the landscaping in front of the building, which, as we were developing ideas for the exterior of the building, we really came to see as part of the palette of the exterior of the building. We have very nice landscaping that's out there right now. It's very well maintained. There's a kind of mounding kind of characteristic to it, a kind of very naturalistic characteristic to it, that as we've been thinking about developing the design in a way that's consistent with how it relates to the Lisle community has become really important to us as we started to think about that. I'll talk more about that as we go through this. So Again, for reference, the existing elevation in this slide is shown at the top, and then there are four options that we're going to review here, and I don't expect you to be able to tell what's going on from these small images here. We'll show larger images in a minute of these, but a couple of things that are worth mentioning. One is that one of the big challenges is what do we do with the stone on the building that's out there right now? Because the stone has such a strong character. You know, it's multicolored. It's got a very, you know, animated texture to it. So it's a very dominant feature on the building right now. That in some ways makes it very hard to figure out what to do with the rest of the building. It's hard to kind of blend it into other elements of the building. So we've done some research as far as how we could treat that stone, and we found a product. It's a paint product, but it's designed to go over stone. It will last for 20 years. So it's got a nice long life. We think it's something that makes sense. And it gives us a way of treating that stone in a way that makes it easier to kind of integrate it into the color palettes of the rest of the building. The siding that you have on the building right now is, there's nothing remarkable about it, but it's been well maintained. It's in good shape. And so you'll see that we're proposing to paint that as well. And then finally, the other big feature on the outside are the new canopies that we're proposing at both the north and the south entry. And so in each of these schemes, you'll see that we've really tried hard to integrate the architecture, the color palette, in with the rest of the building, and then also introduce natural wood at the canopy as something that's kind of a warm and welcoming material that will then transition to the interior. It kind of sets you up a little bit for the experience that you get once you go inside the building. So I'm going to go through the four options that we've developed here so far. You know, some of you have seen the boards that are up here. You have printed packages, which is great because these are really, you know, it's easier to appreciate the differences between these things when you can see them kind of side by side. So I'll go through these, but we're happy to come back to them. And I'll try to point out what the differences are between these. So in the first option here, beginning with the stone, it's a kind of gray colored. The paint manufacturer calls it misty-eyed, but it's kind of a paint color. In this case, we're proposing to paint all of the existing siding on the building a teal color. So you can see that. I'll just point out some of the area that's on the second floor, this area up here. It's typically below the windows that you see here on the lower floor. As you move over to the one-story portion of the building, it's basically everything below that brown fascia that runs around the building is all that existing siding that is being painted teal here. So the teal, in this case, the teal, the paint color for the stone, which has a slightly bluish cast to it as well, it's intended that those kind of work together. One is kind of a lighter or darker version of the other one, so that they kind of work together. And then for contrast, on the underside of the canopy, which you see in the image on the bottom here, we're proposing to do the underside of the canopy in natural wood. In this case, it could be cedar, it could be pine, it could be oak. You know, we'll figure that out as we start to develop this. But it has a natural finish on the underside of it, and then taking that natural wood finish down on the inside to kind of frame that entry as you come in to the building. So carrying that natural wood material down on the inside of the canopy structure. And then finally, also on the canopy structure, introducing an ornamental feature, which is taking the logo for the library, fabricating it in metal or, you know, something like that, and painting it in a way that kind of complements the other colors that we have, but also becomes a kind of identity marker, you know, for the building itself. So that is option A. As we go to option B, in this case, the stone color has a greenish cast to it. Again, I know it's hard to appreciate in looking at these images, but you know, as we develop this, we'll get actual paint samples out here. It'll probably be easier to appreciate the differences when you see them side by side. But I'm sorry, it does have a greenish cast to it. It's actually called Forever Green. And then we're proposing to complement that with kind of a dark green paint color for the existing siding that you have on the building. Again, in this scheme, all of the siding is painted a single color, which is that dark green. And then in the canopy image down below, you can see the way that dark green gives way to, again, a natural wood finish. You know, cedar would probably, which has a kind of warm character to it. Cedar would probably look really nice as a complement to the green in this case, and then again, the ornamental features that are painted in a color that's complementary to the green color that's on the siding. The next two schemes take a slightly different approach where the paint colors for the siding are actually two different colors. So in this first one, the siding that you see up on top is kind of a cream or an off-white color. That carries across on the one-story portion of the building with a white band that runs directly below the metal fascia piece that runs across the building as a way of kind of tying what's happening on one side of the building to the other side of the building. In this case, then, the rest of the siding is painted a blue. It's intended to be kind of a navy blue color that becomes the highlight for the siding here. The stone color is a color that the manufacturer refers to as navy steel. So it has a bluish cast to it, and we think works well with this color palette that's shown here. As you look at the canopy, again, a similar approach to what we're taking with the other canopies that I've shown, where the siding around the canopy and the frame around the roof part of the canopy is the navy blue color with the natural wood inset on the underside of the canopy, and also on the interior faces of the piers that support the canopy on either side. Again, maintaining the ornamental detail that you see there. And then the last scheme takes a similar approach, but substitutes that teal color that you saw in the originals in the first scheme, substitutes the teal color in lieu of the navy blue color. In this one, again, the stone has that kind of bluish cast that's called navy steel on here. And again, introducing the natural wood color on the underside and the interior walls of the canopy piece. So those are the options for the exterior design. I will say that these 4 options have been whittled down from many more options that that we considered. So these were the 4 that at the end of the day we thought worked out best. And as you might imagine, it's the kind of exercise that could be an endless exercise, you know, looking at different combinations for it. The next thing I want to talk about is the interior development of the interior design development for the project. And as we thought about the interior design for the building, this is where we've really tried to figure out how do we connect the building to the Lisle community. And you know, it's really hard to ignore the Arboretum in the community and what that means to the community as far as the community's identity. And so, you know, thinking about the way the Arboretum changes character through seasons, our idea here is to take the idea of the seasons, the 4 seasons, and apply them to the interiors of the library building. Again, when I talked earlier about the importance of the landscaping on the outside of the building, this natural wood at the canopy, you can see the way all this stuff kind of ties together in a, not necessarily a real obvious way, but it's there. It's subtle enough, but I think it becomes a kind of strong unifying design element that carries through the building. And so in this case, we've divided the library into 4 sections that correspond to different seasons. The youth services area as spring, the entry lobby as summer, the adult services area, which is divided again between 2 floors as autumn, and then the meeting room wing we've identified with winter. The other thing that we thought was important are these transitions that you make or thresholds that, you know, as you leave one of these areas and enter into another area. So that's also become kind of an important feature as we develop the design. What happens at those conditions where you're kind of moving from one of these areas into a new area? So here are some initial color and material palettes that we've selected for that relate to the summer ideas that you see here. I won't go into these in detail. These are a work in progress, and these will get expanded as we start to look at carpet selections and, you know, textile selections for furniture and things like that. But this gives you a sense of kind of direction that we're headed in. One of the things I do want to point out on these palettes is this mosaic tile sample that you see here, which has a very organic character, both in terms of the way the tiles are shaped, but also kind of in the range of colors that you see in there, because that becomes an important element in this idea of the thresholds between places that I was talking about. And it shows up here in this first rendering, which is taken of the new lobby. So imagine this is as if you walk in through the front door, and this is what you see when you walk into the new lobby for the building. So on the right-hand side is the main service desk. Off to the right is the entry into the children's area. To the left is the entry into the adult services area. In the background on the left there, you see the stair going up. That's the stairway that goes up to the south entry. So again, you can see how, that's, even though we have a second entry, where it kind of pulls you into the building, it's kind of in the same spot as if you come in through the north entry, which is a good thing as far as the library kind of maintaining control on that. So then some of the features that we've built into the image that you see here, one is that threshold condition that I was talking about. And so you can see along the walls on either side here, and then the floor piece that connects across the bottom and then runs up the wall on the other side, on both the adult services side and on the children's side. And the children's side, it's scaled down to kind of the height of children as opposed to adults coming in. But using that tile as that kind of threshold marker as you move, in between the different areas. And then once you get into the area, the children's area will have a different character than the adult area once you get in. But these threshold pieces are consistent. We do think that it's important, the first impression when you walk into the library building is important. And I think we're especially sensitive to this given your current condition of what the first impression is when you walk into the library building right now. And so what we're proposing here is a kind of feature wall that lets you know right away you're in a library. So this could be bookcases that have face-out books. It could be new display. It could be a variety of things that could be displayed right in the main lobby there. To either side of that, there's a window that goes into a study room on either side, and then you can see the development of the carpeting and some of the flooring materials, which are a work in progress. The one other feature I want to point out in this image is this dropped soffit that you see running across the top here, which is a way of kind of drawing people into both the children's area on one side and the adult services area on the other side, and that'll show up in some of the other views. So this next view shows the interiors of the children's area, and for reference, on the left-hand side there, you can see back into the lobby space. So you can see that stone mosaic threshold piece that I was referring to, that bookcase that's out in the lobby. And then once you come inside, this curvilinear piece in the background here, that's the service desk that you see there. And then this is that play area that I referred to on the plan that has this organic curvilinear geometry that forms kind of a cutout in the wall with some seating pads on it so the kids can climb on it. I think, this is still a work in progress. We don't have the geometry of everything exactly set on this yet. But together with some of the curvilinear seating arrangements that you see here, you can see the way in the children's area we're really trying to take some of those curvilinear forms that you have outside in the mounding of the landscaping and things like that and pull that into the children's area. So that's what's happening in the children's area. This is going back out to the main lobby. So for reference now, this in the background, this way in the background, that's the entry into the children's area. This is the main lobby where you come into the building. That's that bookcase in the lobby that I referred to earlier. And then here you can see the way that dropped ceiling plane that I referred to in the lobby extends into the adult services area. That provides kind of a connection to people coming in from the south entry, so you kind of land in the same spot and it starts to tie all of that together. A service desk that you see here, again, that's immediately available when you come down the stairs. Very obvious where it's located off of the main circulation path there. One of the other features that you'll see here is this blue ceiling piece that extends across here. And as you turn around and head back towards the meeting room wing, so this is in that same aisle. This is a stairway that goes up to the meeting rooms beyond here, but you can see the way that blue ceiling piece comes down and wraps around, comes down the wall here, again, kind of defining a threshold here, but also connecting the two major interior public stairs within the building. So it becomes a way of kind of path, wayfinding in the building to kind of help people navigate the building. And again, you see that the rendering doesn't show a lot of books on the shelves yet and things like that. These are all things that we're kind of in the process of developing. But that gives you a general idea of kind of where we're headed with the interior design, what some of the ideas are. And I think as we develop this, we'll share with you more detail on the actual finish selections and things like that. So I think our hope tonight is that based on the exterior images, the color palettes, the approaches that we propose for the exterior, that we could narrow that down, ideally to one, if not one, a couple that would give us some good direction as far as where to head with this, and then reaction to the way that you see the interiors developing.
Why don't we skip back to a couple of the exteriors?
Sure.
We want to go in order.
And just so the board's aware, for the context of the schedule and where we're at, we're asking this now so that the team can go and start finalizing some of these details over the next month or so that when we come to you at the end of September, we've got a little bit more refinement, but then really so that when they launch into the construction documents, we've shown it to you a couple times and you're getting more comfortable with it, and we're not coming to you and saying, here, let's ask for approval to go out the bid, and you're just seeing it for the first time. So
The other thing we mentioned at the advocacy and outreach committee is that we wanted the direction as well, so we could promote the where we're at in terms of our schedule, where we're at in terms of the progress of the planning to the public via mailings and other ways, video.
Oh, wait, let's see how this goes.
We want to go around. Do we want to talk about what happened with the open house? Maybe
Sure, that's what Eric was just asking about. So the community meeting that we had, there were half a dozen people who showed up, more or less.
Eight people voted.
Eight people voted. And the votes are represented by the stickers that you see on the boards back there. So that gives you an idea of what their preferences were. Now, 10 people is a rather small sample for a community of your size. So I think there's always a question of how reliable a representation that is. But I think, maybe even beyond the stickers, it was interesting just to hear some of the comments and some of the questions and some of the dialogue that went on when people were looking at those things. And so, looking at 4 options like this and trying to decide how do you narrow this down, or you start to look for the differences between them. And so one of the differences that you'll notice is that the 2 schemes on the right, the C and D images, use 2 colors for the siding. The images on the left, the A and B options, use a single color for the siding. So it's not expressing a preference, it's just pointing out what the differences are as a way of starting to make some judgments about what you like or don't like. And these are the kind of things that we heard when we were listening to people talk about those options as we're at the community meeting. And then, in some ways, it's a very subjective decision to make, right? And so I think, from our point of view, we are down to 4 options here that we think any one of these 4 will work well. Any one of these 4 will be a big improvement. We think that there's a real strength in this idea that we have about relating it to your community by kind of appealing to the Morton Arboretum and the seasonal change and the natural materials and things, kind of recognizing the value of the landscaping that you have around the building. So for us, that's become a kind of critical context within which to kind of judge this. And the exterior of the building is going to be when somebody visits, that's going to be the first cue that they have, about those kind of ideas. So that's just a little bit of framework as far as how what we heard. And Mark, Tatiana, anything else you would add to that?
No, I think you summed it up. And again, we had a smaller sample. I'm not sure Monday nights was the best night to have it, and I don't think it was because of competition with anything else in town. I just think that Mondays are probably a difficult night for some people. proposal, and I know I emailed the board, my summary of what, my experience was. From the people I spoke with, and me included, I tend to lean towards a more of the one color versus the dual tones. But as Don also said, I wouldn't be happy with any of these choices. I do think this is a great enhancement from what we have now. And the prior color to what we have now was a red hue, and it was more of a pink red hue. So these options really have a brighter, a more, I just think it's stark contrast to what we've had in the past, and in a positive way. But I want the board to chime in before I
And not to distract from the exterior, it was interesting that the two conversations I had one-on-one with different people, they had a lot of questions on the interior, and they were very supportive of what was going on in the interior. And one loved what was going on with the children's area. One loved the two entrances. So there was that focus, and it clicked to me that maybe some of the people that showed up the first time when you had a lot more people, they saw the interior, they were happy with it, and I don't know if they felt they needed to come or whatever else. That might have even played a factor. So I don't know if, it'd be like asking me which color you want, and I couldn't vote because I'm not the color person. Maybe you might have that out in the community, who knows. So I think looking at the design professionals and some of the feedback here, hopefully will help guide that. But I think my general takeaway is they're happy with the interior. They wanted to vote there, and they did vote, but they cared really about the interior.
That's true, and the woman I spoke with who had the child who uses a wheelchair, she said she came to the meeting because she was interested in what's going on in the interior. And she says, whatever you do with the outside is great with me. And then she said, well, maybe I'll vote, and she voted. But it came secondary to all of the improvements that were happening here. So you don't have to feel that much pressure about the outside.
That's where I was going. That's where I want to make sure you guys all understood. This is paint colors and things like that. I think people are seeing the value of the interior. Paint colors, yes, you'll hear comments. People will make comments, whatever it is. Everyone has a different opinion on colors. So I think share your opinion, but know that there's value in the project that I've heard, at least from the public.
Very much so.
Marjorie, are you ready for us to go around?
Yes.
Okay. I agree that I would like it to be one tone. I am not liking the cream, the two on the right, that are cream on the top and different color below. So I prefer the two on the left. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm liking, I guess it would be option B, which is, to me, looks more like a forest green kind of, because we have so many nice trees, and although teal is a really nice color, forest green, I don't know, to me, fits in with all, the trees and the bushes, and I guess you call that landscaping, that's a big word, but you know what I mean? It looks more natural. And I'm just really happy that we're using gray, whatever gray is appropriate to cover the stone, the rubble stones. So that's where I'm at.
We did attempt to clean the stone to give it a more even, see if we could get a more even appearance out of it. That did not work.
No.
We tried 4 different products, and while it's cleaner, it didn't really improve the appearance of the stone.
Good try.
Yeah.
Naive, but good try.
I had in fact voted, because I was here, I voted for the two on the left, but I agree with Liz that I think this option B gives you the best, sort of a timeless color that won't ever go out of style. The teal looks great today, but if it's going to last 20 years, I would go with the more green. And again, it's with the surrounding trees and the whole Arboretum Village sort of thing. I think it gives the right tone.
So, Lorna, is your option B then?
B.
Your number one? Okay. Sarah?
I love A and B. I'm more towards A. I really like how it's not like too in your face, but that logo stands out, the name, like the library name stands out. Because you also said, like, it ties into the inside, and those colors, just using, like, just trying to get the colors in, but if you use those colors or that color scheme, I think it just pulls right in, and you're just kind of opened up more using those colors and the light and everything, and it just makes everything brighter. And I love the fluidity. You kept saying organic, and that's the only thing that I was thinking of with the floor plans and everything. But with B, it does tie into that landscape, and that logo really stands out, even in the snow, or if it's a rainy day, it's like you've got that red. So I'm kind of torn because I really like both of them. But without looking at the interior stuff, I mean, I would do, I don't know. Actually, no, I like A. I like A.
Karen?
Yeah, I'll take off on what Sarah said, your comments about like the stonework on the interior, like the pathways with the
Yeah, the
connections and
pretzels and
stuff.
everything, I love that.
A would work with that. I kinda like it, it's a little bit softer of a color. But I also like B, because B would work with the landscaping. It's so subjective. I would say, yeah, it's kind of a toss-up. I really like A and I really like B until I probably saw like Marjorie was asking for like the actual print sheet or like
Right.
a color thing, actual color on something. But I like it. I think either one would work just great.
Well, I'm not gonna disagree with anybody's overall comment that A and B seem to be the preference. I'm in that zone as well, not just because of the uniformity of one siding color, but in general, the more natural colors. I mean, if we're thinking about colors that I like in general, I mean, the library would pretty much be pink, so that's not what it's about, right? So I prefer the color blue to greens, but for whatever reason, I feel very strongly about this library being sort of true to itself, and its logo has more nature colors and much less blue. It's browns, creams, and greens, really. So to me, that's where green really comes in strong. What I struggled with was, as sort of like a purist, these computer renderings are not the Sherwin-Williams color match for the actual color, so I think we might be skewed one way or another. Something might look better to us on this that's actually not the true color. And like, as an example, you guys were commenting on B being gray stone. It's not, it's forever green, and forever green is a green. So, sort of take a step back. I looked at, on my phone, albeit on my phone, not an actual swatch, I looked at forever green, and I like forever green. It is a grayish green, but it is not gray. But I think that looks the best. The dark green, I don't think that's the technical Sherwin-Williams color, that's just you guys saying it would contrast with the forever green, and that's good. But I don't know that olive is where we would want to go exactly. And I would say my only counterpoint to the going with the landscaping and in nature, which I generally agree with, is we don't want it to be shrouded and not really stand out at all. And so if we as a group started to say like, I think this color scheme is too blended with the landscaping, then I would actually, pull an audible and say, maybe you could go cream on the siding, because cream is part of the logo, cream is part of the color scheme, and it would fit in that family, and then that would stand out more. It would not be the yellow we see today, so it would still be softer and part of nature, but that's my feedback there, that keep a thought that like maybe we're okay in general with one single siding color, maybe we're okay with greenish grayish stone, but keep an eye out for a better, overall color family when we get to the siding decision. I like the natural wood idea. When it comes to the logo, I like that concept that you have of the little logos on the, whatever you call them, columns or whatever. I would caution, I'm too practical, forgive me, but whatever that material is, it better stand the test of time outdoors. I don't want it to be metal rusting in 3 or 4 years, so whatever that idea is. But I definitely think we want to honor the logo in color and in appearance as much as possible, so I like that we're seeing that there. I also, for whatever reason, I feel very comfortable with the interior color concept. Just, so here I am making a lot of commentary on the outside, but I just want to almost give carte blanche on what's been shown for the season concepts on the interior. I don't have any real nitpicky things to say at all. I think the winter, spring, summer, fall, and where that lands, and the overall color look, that looks really nice, just period. So I'm a little pickier on the exterior. It is our first impression with the public, and so those are my thoughts there. B, strong favor for B, maybe a little bit of tweaking on some of the colors within. But B overall.
Did I hear an A or a B in there?
That was strong B. B for buzzing.
B?
B.
Okay.
B. Yeah. It's buzzing.
Okay. Well, I was here Monday night, and I came in initially thinking A and D because apparently I really felt strongly about teal, and I really liked that, and so that was kind of what was jumping out at me with both of those. And then as kind of time wore on, I realized that I did not like the two colors. I really prefer the one solid color. But one of the things that did come up on Monday night too was in looking at option C, some people really liked the navy, but they didn't like it with the two different colors. And so there was the question of, well, could we do the navy as a single color for the siding? Would that possibly be an option too? And I'm sorry to throw that out on the last one speaking before Marjorie. But that was something else that had come up, was that, some people said, well, it looked kind of more a little bit purple over there, but it was really a true navy, maybe it would look different, and some people really felt that they did like the navy, the dark blue color, and maybe didn't get as many votes just because of the two colors. So that was something to think about as well. I ended the night myself on Monday, liking A and B the most. I, kind of piggybacking on some of the other comments, I feel like the color of A, that teal kind of ties in more with the interior palette stuff that we've seen. And again, I don't know if it's the exact color teal, but just looking at that, there's more of a connection with the interior palette with the teal than there is with that dark green. And Jenny had said something about the dark green, like if it was a different shade, if it was a little bit different, then maybe that'll have a different impact. Right now it does look kind of olive on our paper, but who knows what it's going to look like outside, which is something else we talked about too, is once it's up there, it'll look different in shade, it'll look different in sun, it'll look different if it's overcast, like we talked about all those different things to look into. And one of the things that I had brought up on Monday night too was the logo on those columns, because of them being different colors. And Jenny brought up, the logo that is currently right now inside with our color on the current logo. If we're changing the interior palette, are we going to change then the colors of our logo to match that? And that's something to think about too. I don't want to be tied to the current color of our logo. If we're going to be doing different things in the interior, I almost feel like then the logo should reflect that same color palette. I don't know. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I'm looking over here at this. These are not the same kind of colors that are in the interior palette suggestions. And so, is there a way to adjust that to match? You don't want this to be the logo to be up and to clash with the rest of the color palette on the inside. So that's something else to think about as well. And I know I did mention that on Monday night, and I was told, well, we could change the colors of that. So I wanted to bring that up as well. So really, Marjorie, I don't have an official vote right now after all of that, because I don't know how everyone else feels about potentially seeing a full like dark navy building and what that would look like, or, you know, if, you know, those other aspects. So I apologize, I didn't really give any set answer except for I don't want two-tone. Okay. And I talked fast, sorry.
But you talk loud and I can hear you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I also agree about the colors on the logo. That was going to be my question. On each one of these, we have a different color to go with the schemes. Okay, so are we staying with our current logo? Or are we going to sort of match it with the scheme we have here?
I can let the design team speak to that, but I don't think the intent was to change the logo with that. I think it was more
okay.
just to abstractly use it in a singular tone outside.
Yeah. Can I just make a couple of comments based on what I heard? That, and I don't know if this will help at all, but I'll start with the logo issue. And I think that the logo is very important as an identity piece for the library. We sometimes think of logos as being more sacred than they actually are in terms of it's got to be exactly this color over and over again. And if you look at a lot of companies, you know, well-known logos, the way they show them in different colors and things like that, I think the strength of your logo is the line work of the logo. It's not the color palette that's applied to it. So I think that's what we were trying to emphasize in this ornamental design that we picked up on, was more the kind of line work in the logo as being the important, the kind of the true thing on that. So I don't know if that helps you out as far as deciding about whether, you know, how much those two things have to match exactly. I would be comfortable if they didn't match exactly. That wouldn't bother me a whole lot, I think, because I think the strength is in the line work. Yep.
These choices are far away.
Right.
I don't think we're gonna see major clashes with anything if it was A, B, or C.
Okay.
One other thing I wanted to mention was considering the siding in light of the landscaping that sits in front of it, which I think is a very important consideration. Take a look at your landscaping in the sunlight. You know, we have a tendency to think of everything, every plant being the same color green. And the reality is that the greens that you have in the landscaping around the building tend towards a kind of lighter green. And so think about that with respect to the color that's behind it. The idea that you want the plants to kind of contrast with what's behind it, I think that's, you know, that was our intention. You know, I think that's a good way of kind of setting off the landscaping. But it's probably worth taking another look at the landscaping that you have as well to really kind of get an understanding of that. The last thing that I'll mention, and this is just for, this has no bearing at all on your decision, just for information only. The teal color that you see here is sampled from Benjamin Moore's Color of the Year for 2021. So that, it is called Aegean teal, and that is the color, Aegean teal, and that's what they have chosen as a color of the year. Now, that means nothing, because next year it's going to be
Pink.
orange, or, yeah, it's going to be different next year, so.
Well, as far as the colors and the lines and the logo, when I was in the corporate world, our logo was our brand. It could be identified from 500 feet away because of the color. We could have a series of acronyms, but you could pick out my company from here to where those are by that distinct color. So that's just my opinion on the logo. Not saying it can't be changed. If we stayed with the color of our logo, then I would vote for B, because I think it blends with nature, and this is very much a prairie style. But depending on the teal color, I do like A. So I'm in between. And as long as cream is not yellow, for me, I'd be very happy. I dislike yellow very much, personal opinion.
I second.
And that's it. So we're basically think we have one more A than B, and we have a toss-up on, well, actually, 3 of us.
So we've gotten it down to, from 4 to 2.
Well, that's true.
I'm giving us a pat on the back.
Is there any chance, I don't know, can we get more, better color
Yes.
in A and B, so we would have a,
So what we can do, and this is easily done, is get bigger samples of the actual paint colors. So you can see them together and side by side. Anytime we try to reproduce it on a rendering, it's gonna have the same shortcomings that you see in what we've shown you here tonight. But we can get you the actual paint samples so that you can see those side by side. And this is very helpful. I think actually there is a kind of consistency in terms of the way that you're thinking about this, which I think that's great. There's consensus in that, and I think you're actually very close. So this is for us. This is very good information.
So if you get the color samples, like, then would you suggest we kind of come one-on-one, whatever, during the day and like pick up the samples then and like take them outside and see what they look like outside the building and stuff like that to give us a better idea?
Yeah, they're going to look different in the sunlight and in the shade.
Right.
And you have your building has a very definite sunny side and shady side.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you wanna pick something that you think is gonna look good, and the best way to judge that is to take it outside, and look at it. But I think you'll also probably learn something by just seeing the 2 color samples side by side next to each other, and understand better, those color palettes. And I would encourage you, we left I think we have a board here that has the interior color palettes as well. So, if you look at those colors together with that board as well, and again, that board's gonna get refined in a similar way. We're gonna have actual samples that we give to you, but it starts to give you a context within which to kind of understand how the whole thing works together.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the board packet, it's not in the large scale, it is large scale, I can't remember if it is large scale. It's not in your presentation, but I took some photographs of the building and different, as a pedestrian walking around. And it really, I think, shows you the landscaping, it's that yellow-green.
Yeah.
It's in here too. It's in the large scale, yeah.
From different points on the north side, because that's what we were looking at in the rendering. And you can see that you're seeing pops of color, you're not seeing this linear view that we're seeing at the top of one of these exterior samples. So those are the areas where the patron visiting the building sees the color immediately, driving in, walking around.
so do you have enough from us as far as the exterior?
Yeah, I think that has been great. I just noticed the logo on the side of the bag there, which is,
White.
well, it's the line.
Yeah, lines, yeah.
It's the line work.
I would say we've talked about it at the office, and you have a good logo, but we're judging it not on the colors, but we're judging on the line work. We
Right.
think it's a strong
Well,
graphic all on its
Yeah,
own.
it's here too. and-
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've played with the logo in different ways, because, we have the art signs, and we've modified the logo with a book and a heart. And it's on a different, we play with the colors and different emotional items, things like that, but the lines are the strong piece.
Could we talk about the interior just for a minute? Do you mind pulling up this picture here?
Sure.
The question I had is,
Is that the right picture?
yes, it is. And it's interesting you asked if that's the right picture, because the color palette you use there is way different than what got printed here. And this, and the reason I'm saying that is because to me, those look like more natural colors. They get into, like woodsy, like if you look at the tiles, these tiles seem to have aquas and greens and everything in them.
Yeah.
And
So,
I don't see that there.
When you're looking
Or-
done there, that's what I think the difference is compared to even our screens.
But just so you know, the tile that's in the rendering is sampled from the actual tile. And it's put into the computer and put on the wall that way. So this is where it gets very tricky to take something, take an actual sample of something, put it in a rendering and have it give you the exact, impression of what it looks like. So I don't know if I'm addressing your question, Liz, but they are actually the same thing. And I think again, we can get samples of the tile. I think we want to get samples of all of these things, and maybe that's the next step here. Everything that we show on that board, we should just bring in samples of all of it so you can see it all together.
And Liz, to answer your question really directly, I would trust your printout
Better.
more than here, because actually, if you look at Don's computer, it matches your printout. It's just the way the projector is showing,
Yeah.
it mutes it all.
How do I get what it shows?
No, you have a more accurate
She
representation.
How do I
prefers
get
that.
what it
Liz is saying she
shows?
prefers that.
Oh.
Because to me, we're if we go with aquas and greens and we do something permanent like tile lasts a lot of years.
Yep.
And to me, that's trendy. We're putting something that lasts for, let's say, tile lasts 20 years, and we're putting trendy colors in it. And so I would much rather, if we're gonna do something trendy, I'm okay painting walls or even putting carpeting down that's trendy colors. But that's why I was hoping you were gonna tell me that the wall tile in there was more representative to.
No, I would say your printout is more representative. Let us get a sample of the tile, because my understanding is those are not artificial colors.
It's slate.
It's actual pieces of slate stone that make up that tile, so.
It's actual
Printout
earth.
must be more enhanced too.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, I just, if it's gonna look trendy, I just think
No,
we
we,
could be going down.
we want to avoid that, absolutely, yes.
On the exterior colors,
Yep.
when you do them or provide us with the actual sample colors of them?
Yep.
Are you gonna do like the teal and then, the misty dye and the dark green and the forever green? So we
Correct.
can kind of see them,
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
okay,
Yes.
perfect.
I hope we can get that special stone color. I've never received a sample from that before, but
Well,
We'll try to get
as I
samples of
understand
them.
it, are the way they are.
Right.
We
Yeah.
can't go different hues on
Right.
those,
No,
but the
it'd
teal
be
ones,
nice to just
But
see
Yeah.
to
an
see a
actual.
swatch.
we'll try and get
Okay,
samples
give
of
a
it.
swatch.
Yep.
my question is for the teal and for the darker green, are we gonna see different hues of teal and different hues of green? Or are we just gonna see what you're showing here?
We would like to take a first shot at coordinating it with the stone color. So the stone color's fixed. So we'd like
Yeah,
to, so we'd like to take a shot at choosing a green that goes with the stone green. To get us past, this doesn't have to be the final review of this, but to get us to the point where people are at least comfortable comparing the teal scheme versus the green scheme. And then if we decide based on that we need to go a shade off, one way or the other, we could do that as well. I'm trying to to make it less complicated.
Well, I think your approach makes sense, because if you do that, and you're picking one of the two schemes at that point for the,
Yeah.
the gray, let's call it. And it actually makes some of the promotional material that you might put out there, whether it's a bold shade green, darker or lighter, that's gonna be tweaked over time. But your promotional material will start reading more true, because you picked dark gray green or dark gray blue.
Right. No, and I think the next step, if we're able to narrow this down to a preferred option, then the next step is to apply it to the building. Pick a spot on the building where you can actually apply it and see what it looks like on the building itself.
That's when the Sherwin-Williams tech might come in handy, but the gray
It'd
out
be
the
nice
building.
too then,
Okay.
to see what patrons think.
Can I ask a question? On A, the stone was misty-eyed, right, and that had the teal. And then the other rendering that was the two-tone with the teal, that stone was the navy steel. And so we have one with like the more gray and then the other with the gray blue for the stone. And does anyone have a strong feeling one way or the other, just because they both are presented here kind of with the teal, right? I think that might be important too to talk about.
And we can bring in the navy steel stone color as well,
Okay,
to see that as well.
I just feel like, you know, if we're looking at, because do we want a darker stone or do we want a lighter? I think that, you know, we might change our mind about that too, and because, you know, you have them both here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question about the interior, just space-wise.
Yeah.
If you look at our number, page 10, and then look at our number, page 21, for youth services, are we saying when we have a large program?
I'm not sure I got the right page.
I don't know
Oh,
what
sorry.
image she's talking about.
Wait a minute.
Can you hold up the
Is
image
looking
you're
at this
talking
the
about?
lower floor plan
Okay,
and youth services over to the left?
Yep.
And then youth services entry and play area?
yes,
When we have a large program, like our Harry Potter or whatever, are we saying we're going to use the group study rooms? It's all totally open, or is it just where? So right now we have a youth services, while we're having a large program, that's going on in a large number, but people can still go up and use youth services. So it's separate. Am I making any sense? Well, I'm seeing this totally open. Where are you going to hold, where are we going to hold programs in this meeting? That's what I just asked. So we're saying the group, are these the group study rooms? That's the old end, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong floor. I'm on the wrong floor.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we'll still use these rooms.
These rooms will be used for programs, for the public and for the staff, but because we have that play area in the services department, they could be smaller programs, story times and things like that there. We also have the outdoor programming space, we use that. When we have outdoor programs, or when we have larger programs like Harry Potter or something, those are generally library-wide. So it's not just the youth services department, it's youth and adult, and we probably have them all on the first floor. Also, when people come, if it's a larger just youth program, generally people will park and then just come straight to the meeting room. That's how it usually.
And opening up
So I think on this page, the meeting rooms
Just
are
off
not
to the
shown,
side. Yeah.
right?
right. It's shown on the image up here right now. So there's
Okay.
another plan in your set that
It shows the whole
meeting.
first floor,
Yes.
before it,
Oh, before, okay.
Yes.
And that play area
that was just looking at.
was discussed with staff,
Very easy.
with the youth service staff, of what that wanted to be. Because if you recall way back, it's only a few months, that was originally conceived as maybe a closed door area. But when the architects sat down with the staff, it was discussed and said, you know, we'll get more use out of it if it can be open and, you know, we can put the story times and things like that in there as compared to a closed room that's only used a few times a day. So I think that gives more flexibility to the space.
Liz and I found that on a couple of our library visits that, a few of the staff or the directors mentioned the same thing that you did. By having closed doors, cut off a good use of space.
Right.
Not being able to expand it, so.
And I think for what you were asking the question, if you look at page 8,
Page 8.
which they just pointed out to me was,
It's their page.
it shows the meeting room and the picture that we were looking at, that you
It
mentioned.
looks like that on the screen behind you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the big sheet. You see, the other one that we were looking at, page 10, it just truncated the meeting room, and if it would have been shown, it would have been off to the right.
Zoomed in and zoomed out. So this is a zoomed out view, and the one that you guys both saw was zoomed in.
Right.
Yeah.
So the meeting room on the other sheet was there, it just got cut off.
Are there any other questions?
This just kind of came up, and maybe I missed it, but one of the concerns from some of the younger members of my family was where will the video games be? Because right now in youth services, it's like up in the JH kind of side, and so where will they be? And if they're gonna be in the teen space, does that mean the younger kids can't go in there and play video games? That was kind of a concern that was brought up. So I don't know if that's been thought about at all.
Playing video games?
Yeah.
We were planning for them to be in the teen space, but as all spaces in the library are, it's for everybody. So
I tried to relay that, you know, it's available, because someone else asked me, is there gonna be a quiet space where I can sit and read, and I said, yes.
And yes, there's nooks and crannies where you can sit, and any one of any age can go. I did want to mention that in some of the interior renderings, and I think John mentioned this too, there are some placeholder items around. So there's some like round tables,
Mhm.
not necessarily going to have round tables there, they're just there to show that we would have a display table there.
Mhm.
So there's more to go in terms of what we decide goes where.
Right.
What about makerspace?
Well, we talked about that, we talked about using one of the meeting rooms and having flexible space for that, because we just don't have the space. And, you know, if we wanted to do some makerspace, activities and youth services, they've got that play area there. You could use one half of this meeting room and have something on a cart. We just don't have a separate room that's dedicated for makerspace activities.
I will tell you that one of the gentlemen asked me whether or not we were gonna have fundraisers for the library. So, and he's got 2 small kids, and he was like, well, you know, I haven't heard of any fundraisers. Are you guys gonna have fundraisers? So, I thought that was pretty cool.
On the zoomed in version, I mean, you can kind of see it here, but on the zoomed in version, it's easier to see from the lobby, the 2 group study rooms.
10.
I'm sorry, it's 10. Sorry, there was some page number,
This one,
yeah.
the one that you wanted for.
Yeah.
There's a page number at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, 10, well, there's a 7 and then
Yeah.
there's a 10.
That's why I didn't want to go to page number. And then there's another.
There's 2 pages.
It's our page number versus the
Yeah.
library's
Right.
page
There are
number.
a few 7s and 8s.
Discussion, one of the 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
the 10.
Thank you.
The zipper-looking line between the group study spaces, is that implying that there's, you know, a soft divider there? What is that really representing, that zipper-looking?
Those are the bookcases. That's that
No,
bookcase.
No, the-
dividing the room.
Yeah,
Oh, dividing,
screen,
this
potentially.
is a wall between the study rooms? Is that what you're
There's a
referring to, Johnny?
monitor shown on the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was,
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
just trying to,
monitors?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just
yes.
trying to understand how inflexible or flexible that wall was.
So
And
quite
that-
often-
That's a hard wall
Yeah,
with.
quite,
It is.
oh, the
yeah.
zippers are, I think you're seeing the chairs, the way we represent chairs. From a distance, it looks more like a zipper, but we typically now put the tables up against the walls, and you have a monitor there, and then people can share their screens from their own devices up there and have group working sessions.
Yeah, my thought was just simply that since that's a space that is gonna be constructed as opposed to like the meeting rooms that we're in are where they are and they're not moving and we're not creating walls or removing walls or anything, so my thought was to the extent that that can be flexible so that both those study rooms can be used as one total space versus always subdivided. I don't know that you guys have decided like it should be 2 rooms because and only 2 rooms because, you know, if it could be either, I think that would.
We chose the size of these rooms because we have 2 other larger study rooms already that are existing that we're leaving in place. And frankly, we find most study rooms just get used by 1 or 2 people. And so if you have an 8-person room, you end up with 2 people in it. And if you have 2 4-person rooms, you end up with 4 people altogether in it. So we find some of the smaller ones to work better.
I'm looking at this thing right here and I'm saying,
Yeah.
why wouldn't that help us so that if you always leave that closed, you always leave that closed, but you have the option to make more square footage so that if there was ever a need for an additional larger meeting room space, you could always fall back on that, because that's something we haven't created yet. So while we're creating it, why would we take away flexibility in what it could be? That's
So we can, we can build that in, we can get that priced out, we're gonna do another pricing exercise. They are really expensive walls to put in, and they're worth putting in if you're really going to use them, if you really have a need for that kind of flexibility. We have probably done the reason we're tend to be suspicious of them is we've probably seen a number of installations where they get set in one position, either open or closed, and they never get moved, after that. So I think if that kind of flexibility is something that the library will really be able to take advantage of, it might be worth the expense of putting it in.
Yeah, I mean, words like expensive are a little hard without actually seeing the number, so I think it would help to.
Yeah, they're not cheap. If you can get cheap ones, the according ones that you've seen places, they don't stop sound.
Right.
You've got to spend enough money on a wall that's heavy enough to stop kind of the deep sounds going through it. And to do that, you then have to put structure above to carry that wall, so you can slide it and then drop it into place. So and we can't put electrical in those walls, so we could not have monitors and things on those walls.
I think we have more of a demand for smaller study spaces.
I was gonna say, pre-COVID, I come in at every different time of day, and there's usually one person in the study room. Very seldom do you see 3 or 4.
But I do like having these two here as a group study with a smart monitor, because that's something we've never had before, and that we don't have in the existing study rooms. And they're close enough to service desks, so if there's any technological needs, they're there.
You saw how long it took Don and I to get online tonight. There will be technological needs. The kids will have no trouble.
Any other questions?
Are we talking about overall anything and everything related to
Well, I
design?
thought we were exterior, not that we can talk about the interior, but will the interior come
Well,
here,
I think we've got the exterior comments and direction. I think, yeah, if you have interior comments or
Okay.
anything else, that'd be great to hear them. We did hear on the interior colors, I kept on hearing that you liked them. Besides, I did hear Liz's comment about, the stone, that concern. But were there any more comments or concerns on the interiors?
The colors you're talking about?
Yeah, the colors, and I guess at that point, like Jenny said, it's opened up and have it.
Well, I like the idea of that ceiling, like that wayfinding kind of color, that strip that leads you from like the one stairwell and, or the entrance to the other one. I like that, how it just kind of leads your eye. I think that's really a nice feature. And that's the thing that kind of stands out to me the most right now. I think that's the point of it, right, is that it draws your eye to there. So I like that, and even when I was reviewing these documents with my youngest the other day, he was explaining to me everything. Oh, well, remember this, Mom, like I did yesterday. Remember this, and so this was the part that leads your eye to here, and he was really telling me everything, and I said, okay, so he listened. But I really liked that aspect of it. And I mentioned this Monday night too. I like the different seasons. I think that's really a nice idea. And we talked about the Arboretum, on Monday night too, and that whole tying in that nature aspect. So I really like the color scheme.
I appreciate the sight lines as they're shown on the interior right now from the main north entry, that you can see the stairs up to the south entrance, and conversely, even though there wasn't an interior rendering, that if you kind of draw a straight line from the foot of the stairs coming from the south entrance, you can see the service desk. So
Yes.
I think it's important that, as you go from no choices to choices, that you
Yes.
can really have a lay of the land without having to lean on signage or people. It'll still be good to have signage and people.
Yeah.
But I think, while we have the ability to make these choices, that sight line looks good right now.
Well, and to follow up on that, if you're sitting at a desk, you can tell somebody.
Right, point and see.
Yeah.
Just follow that
Right.
color.
Anyone else?
I have one more exterior question. Well, not really more question, but to keep in mind, which I'm sure everyone is already doing, but as we've talked about the parking lot flow and the one-way sort of thing, I feel like, we have a great opportunity now that with the two entrance structure, that people can park closer to where they need to be for what they want. And yes, once people have become regular users in the new format, they'll know where they want to park. But there will always be new users and there will always be unfamiliar people or tired people who won't necessarily know where they want. So I think signage on the exterior,
Yes,
guiding people, since it's all one way, if you go into from the north or from the west and that wasn't really where you needed to be, you got quite a bit of driving around. And I don't think we want a lot of merry-go-rounding going on. We want to try to have people go directly where they want to go rather than clog up the drive-through or anything else going on.
yes. I think you're right. I think signage on the exterior with driving patterns are going to be, is just for safety concerns, is going to, especially introducing a drive-up window and things like that, it's going to be really important.
Yeah, I don't think it quite takes it to the level of like a medical or a college campus where you're gonna
Right.
need like 6 lines to say this and that and arrows to, but,
Yep.
but
Yep.
definitely more than there is today.
Yep.
In our experience, no amount of signage can calm people down the first couple of weeks.
And
The drive-up window, it's like the first time you go to a pharmacy or something. They're all slightly different, and you develop a way of approaching them. But I think striping it and things so that you try and direct people to line their cars correctly instead of waiting to the end to pull in and stuff like that is what we're planning on.
I don't know the current cost of signage, but Mark, I'm looking back to you. You got room in the budget for this?
We did have a special line item in there, so we'll have that. We'll keep track of it.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if it's expensive
We
like
find-
room dividers.
We find if we put in very clear entrances and those wayfinding colors that Don's talking about, you can eliminate 50% of the questions. But there is 10% of the people who, it doesn't matter how much signage you put up, they're still gonna ask the first human being they see, kind of where they're going.
And with the new layout, they'll see people right when they walk in, as opposed to now, well, pre-COVID, when you would walk in and be like, where do I go? So I think that's gonna be a huge, improvement.
Well, just hire your kids to answer questions.
Right.
And they'll say, I was at the presentation. I knew.
Well, to add to Jimmy's comment about the flow, on your page 5, our page 8, so now we have a drop off on the Front Street side. We don't have a drop off
Right.
because you don't have an entrance. That's really going to, because it almost lines up with the drive going one way the other way. So the signage, as you say, is
Yep.
that's a whole new challenge.